So today we're going to talk about what happens when we change part of a linear equation, what happens to the graph. So when we're talking about graphing a linear equation, the easiest form for that equation to be in is slope-intercept form. So you'll see up here I have an equation already graphed, y equals x plus 1. So again, it's in y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And so what we're going to talk about on this video is just what happens when we change that y-intercept. What happens if I change that b in my equation? What happens on the graph? So I have y equals x plus 1 as my graph, my red line that's already on there. So let's say that I change it to y equals x plus 3. So notice my slope is the same, my m is still 1, but this time my y-intercept is now 3 instead of 1. So the blue line is my new one here. So notice on my red line, my y-intercept was 1, and on my blue one, my y-intercept is 3. So if you look at that, what would you say happened to that graph? Well, if we're going to use good math vocabulary, we would say that that is a translation. It has moved up 2 units. So I notice that my b increased by 2 units from 1 to 3, and my graph translated up 2 units from 1 to 3. Let's say, what happens if I translate down? So what if I have y equals x minus 1 this time, let's say. So the green line is y equals x minus 1. So my original red line was y equals x plus 1. And now I have y equals x minus 1. So again, if we're going to use good math vocabulary, I have a translation down 2 units again. My original graph, my b was positive 1. My new graph, my b is negative 1. That's a decrease of 2 units. And my graph has translated down 2 units. So when I change the b, that causes a translation in my graph. Notice the slope is staying exactly the same. The angle of that line is not changing. All that's changing is where that line is moving. It's moving up or it's moving down, however many units you change it. So if I were to increase my y-intercept, say, by 4, so I get y equals x plus 5. There's my original graph was y equals x plus 1, and my new graph y equals x plus 5. And notice I have just moved up 1, 2, 3, 4 units because my y-intercept has increased by 4 units. If I were to decrease it by 4 units, or more, let's say I decrease it by 5 units, y equals x minus 5. I would actually be decreasing by 6 units, excuse me, because my original graph was y equals x plus 1. I've now translated down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, and my new graph is at y equals x minus 5. So changing the b in your equation will cause a translation in the graph. If you increase b, it will move your graph up that many units. If you decrease b, it will move your graph down that many units.